Like a true impressionist, Claude Monet completed this painting outdoors in a single session, which took only a few hours. The painting is entitled Woman with a Parasol, Madame Monet and Her Son, and when we zoom in a bit, it becomes clear how Monet was able to paint this so rapidly. Look at the meadow in the foreground. You can see the short and quick brushstrokes that he applied. Some green here, some black there, and some more dark green, and at places you can even see the white and blue underlayers. It may look quite chaotic, but we can see also some structure, both in the directions of the brushstrokes which create a rhythm, and the lighter and darker areas which represent the shadows of the two people, something that becomes apparent when we zoom out. So all these quick, short brushstrokes combine into a painting that makes sense from a distance. This impressionist style is so different from popular movements during that period. Compare it, for example, with the great precision in the works of William Adolphe Bouguereau, or the famous Gleaners by Millet, or even to some works Monet painted a decade earlier. Monet captures a brief moment during some quality time with his family just outside Paris, where they lived. It shows Monet's first wife Camille and their eldest son Jean out for a stroll on a windy but sunny day. The 28-year-old Madame Monet wears a light-colored dress and a jacket on top of it, and she holds a green and blue parasol in both hands to protect herself from the sun. The 7-year-old Jean is standing with his hands in his pocket, and he seems to be wearing a light shirt, blue tie and a hat. If we zoom in, we can see the subtle hints of pink and yellow in the dress of Madame Monet and the usage of red and green in the hat of her son. They are standing on top of a small hill, and Monet captured them from a bit lower on that hill with the grass and yellow wildflowers in between them. And while Monet painted this impression only in a few hours, he did get the main compositional elements right. Based on the shadow of Madame Monet and her son in the foreground, we know that the sunlight is coming from the top right. You can clearly see the effects of the strong wind by the veil of Madame Monet which is blown around her face, the shape of her dress, and the apparent movement of the wildflowers in the foreground. At its core, Impressionism is a way to capture snapshots from outdoor situations, sometimes solely focused on the landscape and weather itself, like in Monet's famous Impression Sunrise, but many times with some people present. In this painting, Monet integrated his wife and son with the environment. The colors of the blue sky and the white clouds come back in the top of the parasol and the clothing of Madame Monet and her son. 11 years after he completed this painting, Monet returned to this subject one more time. This time, it shows the daughter of his second wife on a stroll outside. It's interesting to put both images next to each other. It shows us how Monet's ideas developed. He obviously brightened his palette, and he realized that Impressionism could be even less detailed than he did in his painting a decade earlier. Now, I'm not saying that the second painting is necessarily better, but it's interesting to compare both. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have any preference between both paintings. In 1876, Monet sold this painting to the Romanian art collector and homeopath George de Bellio. This homeopath was the doctor of Madame Monet during her illnesses, and as the Monet family did not have much money at that time, they usually paid him with some of Monet's artworks. George de Bellio was actually a big fan of Impressionism and used similar arrangements with artists such as Manet, Pissarro and Renoir. The children of de Bellio donated the collection of their father between 1957 and 1966 to the Musée Marmottan Monet, and this museum has nowadays the largest collection of Monet paintings. But this particular painting was sold earlier and ended up with the American philanthropist Paul Mellon and his wife Bunny Mellon, who donated it in 1983 to the National Gallery of Art, where it is on display today. Well, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, you may be interested in another video about Monet's work, which is his enormous series about the Rouen Cathedral, painted almost 2 decades after this work. As always, I appreciate all your support to this channel, so hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you have not done so. It helps others to discover these videos. Thanks for watching.